Hey, how's it going? Welcome. So this video is going to be a project demonstrating the profitability of Expedition. And specifically, we're going to be taking Expedition to what I consider to be its most extreme, the most efficient thing that you can do with it for currency. So we're going to be taking these 25 logbooks, each of which have a Knights of the Sun, or Dannig, mission on them, and we're going to be running a Knights of the Sun mission on each of the logbooks. And from there, we're going to take the path that I think is most efficient. So there's a couple schools of thought, right? One school of thought is that, look, the logbooks, the main thing that's profitable off of them is the burial medallions, the reroll currency, the thing that lets you refresh Dannig's window here. And that you just take them and you quickly sell them because they're going to go like hotcakes. They sell very quickly. And then you move on. You quickly get back into the logbooks and keep going. That's school of thought number one. School of thought number two is you use the reroll currency, you use the burial medallions, but you're really just buying. He'll occasionally, one out of maybe every 10 of these windows, he'll offer you another logbook. Very profitable. And you take those, and then you also take the reroll currency, which he offers every time. He'll offer you reroll currency for the other three. He'll offer you Rog, Gwenin, and Tujen reroll currencies. And then you just buy those until you're out of burial medallions, and that's it. And then you just go and you sell those separately, the way that you would have sold the burial medallions. Instead, you trade the burial medallions in, you get logbooks, and you get the other reroll currencies, and you sell those. That's like kind of the middle of the road path. All the way down at the end of the path, from my perspective, is you buy a lot of Tujen artifacts, the Black Scythe, these guys here, but you never buy the ones listed here that are full price, right? So I'm going to refresh this now, and we see down here we get some discounted ones. These ones you can buy for 0.7 to 1 ratio, so you spend 0.7 Dannig artifacts for every one of the Grand Broken Circle artifacts that you get back. So you do that with Tujen artifacts, but only when the discount is a 0.5 or a 0.6, an extreme discount, getting it basically for half price. And anything above that, you don't, you move on. But then also buying the reroll currency, probably only for Tujen, which are the coins, and Gwenin, which are the Astragalis. I've been mostly skipping Rog to conserve currency. So that's going to be the method. And then from there, we're going to use the Tujen currency that we've bought, the artifacts, to come over here and haggle for items. And what I anticipate, because I've done this in the past, what I anticipate is that we are going to have to run at least a few Tujen Black Scythe logbooks to kind of supplement the number of artifacts we have, because as you can see, we've got a ton of coins. You're gonna have way more coins than you're gonna have artifacts. So we'll reach some kind of equilibrium, and we'll see where I decide to cut it. But I'll run mostly Sun, Knights of the Sun logbooks, and I'll tally it all up, the cost of those. I'll tally up the cost of any Black Scythe logbooks that I run to get some more artifacts, and then I'm going to break down the data, the results, into a few categories. Number one, I'm going to pretend what would the results have been, what would the profit have been if we just sold our total number of burial medallions and did nothing else with them. What would the profit have been if we just used the burial medallions to buy the Tujen and Gwenin rerolls and the logbooks, and just sold those and did nothing else with those. That's number two. And then number three, we're going to see what the profit actually is for if we spend most of the Tujen reroll currency until we're out of artifacts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark down where I stand right now with artifacts, because I'm not going to bring these down to zero just to do the test. So I'm going to say we're starting at 19,000 of these, 12,000 of these, 1,400 of these, and 1,400 of these. And similarly, we're going to come over to Dannig, and we're going to do the same thing here. And once we get back down to those levels, after running our 25 logbooks and however many of the Black Scythe that I do, once we get back down to where we started, I'll consider that zero, basically. That'll be, we have spent all of the artifacts and rerolls that we have acquired. And we'll find out how profitable it is, and I will tell you how much time did I spend doing the logbooks, how much time did I spend rolling Dannig windows, and how much time did I spend rolling Tujen windows, and then we'll get an idea of how much profit per hour it'll be if you were to just do one technique, or to do the middle of the road technique, or to do the whole hog. So we'll cut there, and I'll come back once we've run the logbooks. Okay, so 25 logbooks done. Total amount of time on that was 2 hours 24 minutes, which comes out to about 5 minutes and 45 seconds per logbook on average. I didn't log out or stop the clock when I had to go to the bathroom, grab a drink, a trade would come in. I would keep it running, so hopefully that's pretty realistic. And this is actually on the high side, 5 minutes 45 seconds, because our number of Olroth boss encounters was high, which is obviously a good thing. You get way more artifacts and rerolls from him. You expect about 1 out of every 5 to be Olroth in my past experience. So I expected about 5 over the course of these 25 logbooks, and then we got 7. So a little high, but not unreasonable, and I'm still going to count it. That's within the normal realm of results that you would get. And so this tab has got everything that we've gotten so far. I've pulled out some of the more obviously liquid and sellable stuff over here on the right, and we're going to do a full tally before we proceed and do the coin rolling or the medallion rolling, but just wanted to kind of pull some of this stuff out to start with and show you. So stack decks, we got 59 of these, 37 raw chaos, a few generic sellable scarabs here that are pretty good, a bunch of fusings here. I've already converted the jewelers to fusings, a couple of unusual gems blueprints, which are 40C each, and then a couple things over here that I'm not sure I'm going to count in the final results. These boots in particular, not sure whether you can rely on this. But basically, these boots have 117 out of 117 base ward, and there's a very popular build this league, the ward loop build, that wants as high ward as possible. So the fact that the base rolled with as high as possible makes these worth about 90 chaos from what I've seen. I don't think I'll end up including these. And then we've got a bunch of city square maps and just, a bunch of other stuff over here. I'm probably going to tally up only the most sellable stuff to make it realistic. But realistically, really, these 238 burial medallions are the vast majority of the profit. They come out to be worth about 1,900 chaos in total. And let's just do a little quick. It's about 10x right there. So right off the bat, in the 2 hours and 24 minutes that it took me to do this, got at least 10.5x just in these burial medallions alone, never mind all the rest of this stuff. And the question is, would it be more efficient for me to just go back in, dive back in with 25 more logbooks and get another 10.5x? Granted, we haven't pulled out the costs yet, so this is gross. This is not net. But would it be more efficient for me to just buy 25 more logbooks and just get 238 more burial medallions, or would it be better to spend my time rolling the burial medallions in the vendor window and then rolling the Tujen after that? And so that's what we're gonna do. All right, checking back in after spending just 24 minutes rolling Dannig coins, got rid of all 238. I kept an eye on my artifacts. I did not dip below where I started on artifacts, so theoretically, I could have even gone out and bought more coins and gone further down. Might do that eventually. That might be a separate experiment, but for now, even just with what I rolled so far, got 469 Astragali, 231 exotic coins, so these are worth about 2, and these are worth about 5 this league at this point. 2 Druids logbooks for 30C, 2 Knights of the Sun logbooks for around 90C, and then 19 Black Scythe logbooks for each are about 50C. So those are the major outcomes
What you need?
of rolling Dannig, plus we gained in terms of gained 22,000 lesser, 21,000 greater, 9,200 grand, and 2,100 exceptional artifacts. And so next piece of the puzzle is we're going to roll these until we spend all 231 of these coins or get down below where we started here, in which case we might add a couple of Black Sun logbooks. So as advertised, checking back in after rolling Tujen, and two things you can probably see right away. Number one, we have a ridiculous amount of stuff over here in the experimenting tab. And then number two, we didn't come close to running out of coins. We started with 230 something, and we barely used more than half of them. And the limiting reagent here was our grand. These guys right here, the sword. So this is just slightly below where I started. The last purchase that I had took it slightly below, not by an amount that is going to mess up the data at all. But, you know, the others still have plenty left that I could keep going down. So I think we are going to go ahead and run at least, say, like 2 or 3 pure Black Scythe logbooks and see how that goes. And so we'll include the direct proceeds that we get from those, anything that we pick up in the maps, and then we'll use the added artifacts that we get. I'm going to focus really hard on getting just the artifacts, and you know, if I get a few extra coins, so be it. But we'll see how many I get. If the rate of artifact acquisition is approximately similar to what we did in the Knights of the Sun logbooks, I think we can expect between 500 and 600 of these guys per logbook. So if I were to run 3, I would get, you know, 15 to 1800 more of these to run, to roll rather. That's still not going to be enough to use up all 109 exotic coinage, like even if I'm very careful with what I roll. So we'll see. That's probably going to be the end of the experiment for me. I don't think I'll take it further down the Tujen rabbit hole, because that's kind of its own separate currency making strategy. Kind of want to focus on what you can do with Dannig specifically, and have Tujen just be kind of ancillary. So last bit of the puzzle coming up. Gonna run at most 4 of those. We'll see how long it takes me, and check back in with the results. All right, here we are, and the rolling is done. The complicated math is done, and here's where we stand. I did run 4 more Black Scythe logbooks, which turned out to be pretty good. I do have 57 coins left out of the, I don't know, a couple hundred that I started with. But I got my Black Scythe artifacts down to about a little bit above where I started. The Grand and the Greater are the 2 kind of limiting reagents there. You know, you keep the exceptional around in case you roll like a mirror shard, like I did last week. You need to be able to throw something at it. But, you know, I got those down. I could have kept, you know, do a logbook here, do a logbook there. But I think the benefit will get tinier and tinier as you go. So let's go over what the actual results were. Remember, the goal of this was to understand what the different outcomes would be depending on when you stopped. So you start with just doing the Sun's logbooks, and what does it look like when you stop at various stages? Let's take a look here. This little crude graph I made. So if all you do is just run the logbooks and sell the medallions, took me for 25 logbooks just shy of 2.5 hours, and averaged about 2.7 exalts per hour over that span. Probably a little less than that if you count in rolling everything. It doesn't take me long. I've been doing this a while. I'm pretty good at rolling it. It goes pretty quick. I know what to look for, but you can probably call it more like 2.5x per hour, I would say. But that wasn't the interesting one. We know that one's only okay. When people say that they don't understand where the profit comes from in Dannig logbooks, I assume that that's what they're doing. That they're just running the logbooks and selling the reroll medallions for like 8 chaos apiece. But what if we take those and we take another just shy of a half an hour and we roll those through Dannig's window? Well, at that point, we have only taken up 2 hours and 50 minutes by my clock, but we've suddenly jumped up to 4.7x per hour when you sub out. So instead of selling them for 8, what happens if you take those all out of your inventory and turn them into other stuff instead? So the main profit from those, I would say that the Astragali and exotic coinage that we rolled from those, we did just better than breaking even with that. You know, those were okay. We kind of traded in the burial medallions for the coins in the Astragali, but the real profit was in the logbooks. We got a ton of logbooks. I've got the numbers over here. We wound up, and I think I already got this, with 19 scythe, 2 sons, and 2 druids, which is huge. So then, at that point, you could just sell the Astragali and the coinage and be done at 4.7x per hour. But what happens if we take it again to the next step? If you then roll the coinage with Tujen until you run out of whatever you run out of first. Now, I suspect that since you're only getting artifacts from this process right here, you're only buying discounted artifacts, you're probably going to run out of, my guess, grand most often, and then maybe sometimes greater. Could be another one, but those are the 2 most common that you're probably going to run out of. And so I went until I ran out of grand, and that took me an extra hour to roll. It was over 100 pages of Tujen, and that ended up being 6.6x per hour. You can see we're going up every time we do this. And I've definitely had times where I just stop there and then just sell the coins. But I've also had times where I go ahead and buy a few extra Tujen logbooks, or use some of the ones that I got in this step, use my own self-farmed ones, because it just feels bad, you know. It felt intuitively bad to me. I wasn't sure of the numbers, but I was like, man, I hate to let those go to waste. I've got all these other artifacts. I've got all these coins. Maybe if I could just get a few more grand artifacts. So I did. I ran 4 logbooks, and I took 200 chaos out of my investment, or added to my investment, I guess you should say. And then I ran another bunch of Tujen windows with the results of that. And that ended up being about 7.5x per hour. So, you know, maybe the solution here is to start with Dannig and then just run it down, doing whatever you need to do until you've run down all of the Tujen coins and then start back at the beginning. That seems tedious to me. I've got to cut it somewhere. I kind of want to get back to doing the Dannig stuff. I really like the high roll of having the possibility of running into Olroth, the boss out there. So, you know, I'll probably get back to that. But I would say, even if you're talking about making 6.5 to 7 exalts per hour, that's pretty darn good. There, you know, a lot of people would kill to make even half of this among new players. And, you know, even experienced players can struggle to make this much. So, you know, if you're looking for a strategy to make good currency, this is never going to go out of style. The Astragali are selling for less than half what they were last league. But the logbooks are always going to be expensive because people are always going to want to do this. And then the scythe logbooks, they spit out pure currency. I mean, you saw this. Look at my inventory over here. This is ridiculous. This isn't even everything. I had to start putting things over here as well. So I got the high roll base items from Olroth, my breach rings, and then a couple of other random, you know, one-off things here. Worth 30C, probably worth 20C or something like that. Sorry, this is the one that was worth probably 20C. But yeah, I mean, the stuff that you're getting from this, stacked decks. There's never been a time in the past several leagues where stacked decks are worth less than a chaos apiece, and they're usually 2. Alteration orbs, guardian maps, pick your favorite map, and you know, gems, blueprints. These are things that are pretty perennial, so you're always going to make some cash off of this, no matter how many people are doing it. So, yeah, I call that a successful experiment. We wound up, I think you can conservatively say that if you're going through the process the way that I did, you can conservatively make 7x an hour, even without any major high rolls, which I didn't have. You know, I got an exalt a couple times scattered over, you know, a couple hundred Tujen rerolls, and that's honestly not much. You know, you expect that. So I think this is totally reasonable, and if you're looking for a currency strategy, this is the way to go. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a good one.